if I would take her to some fancy restaurant and buy everything to her and, give tons of flowers and, it might have given a little bit wrong expression for myself because I think that's part of some kind of acting also. And I like to be realistic with persons. And it's fine, to have a 30 minutes coffee break in some other countries. But in Finland, no, we have a 15-minute coffee breaks and then you go back to the work and do your work. Don't talk, just do. We don't walk hand in hand with my wife around in public places. I think we have never really done that. Or for God's sake, we don't kiss in public places or anything like that. It's like that happens in a bedroom, not in public places.
There's a room for that, people. There's
Yes.
a room.
Yes.
It's like a Swede and a Finn go to a bar, and then the Swede raises the glass and says cheers, and the Finn looks at him and says, did we come here to talk or to drink?
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dating Beyond Borders podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to have a Finnish content creator joining me. His videos are all about Finnish culture, and today we're diving into all of it, from why Finns might just be the worst at small talk, to why you need to be prepared in a relationship with a Finnish man, and one very random activity Finns absolutely love. So welcome to the podcast, Miikka.
Nice to be here.
Nice to have you on the podcast. So a lot of your videos kind of portray you as a very stereotypical Finn, and I know you do that for a reason. The stoic, highly reserved Finnish man that has very little to say. How true is this for you personally?
Well, it has some true behind that. I mean, I feel sometimes the way I'm acting in those videos, but you must understand that it's pretty much of that is just acting and parody and all that stuff. But I have done some DNA tests and I'm 100% Finn, so there is some reality there also.
But so they say that Finns, okay, out of all the countries in the world, it looks like Finns are, I don't want to say the worst at small talk. They just hate small talk. They don't really see a reason behind it. What do you think about this? Is this true in your opinion?
I mean, it's useless. You don't need to do it. If you know a person, I mean, you don't do it with your friends in Finland because basically you know these people. You don't have the need to talk about weather or something like that. Of course, if things get awkward and you found yourself talking with a random person in Finland, you might want to talk about weather or something like that. But it's not in the same level, like for example, in States or some other more social countries. We don't do that small talk that often in Finland.
Yeah, there's a good joke, and I don't know if you know it, but it's like a Swede and a Finn go to a bar, and then the Swede raises the glass and says cheers, and the Finn looks at him and says, did we come here to talk or to drink?
Yeah. And that's true in some parts. Although when Finns starts drinking, they'll start talking. So that will come after usually after 3 or 4 pints of beer. They become very social persons. But yeah.
So for you personally, you say you're a little bit more outgoing than a general stereotypical Finnish man.
I would say so.
But for example, let's say you're stuck in an elevator with someone from another country, and they're going to turn to you and they're going to say, oh my God, I really love your sweater, or what do you think about the weather? What is your personal reaction to this?
I'll probably wonder, why is this person talking to me? Do I know this person? or does this person recognize me from the social media account that I'm making? But usually those kind of things doesn't happen in Finnish elevators. Usually, we look our feet and keep a long way of distance from another person in that elevator. But if someone would talk to me in an elevator, I'll probably, just respond to that compliment as best as I could, but I probably wouldn't know how to carry on that conversation if I do I have to compliment this person's weather also, or what would I say next? So that would be a short convo, I would think so.
Yeah, and actually, when it comes to compliments as well, it looks like Finns, they seem to be not the most complimentary of types. And I've even heard that if you say something, oh, I really like your sweater, they'll say like, yeah, it's super cheap, or like, my hair, I cut it myself, this kind of thing, like kind of, really understated in a way.
Yeah, well, I have a super cheap sweater, and I also have got my own hair. So yeah, I would probably answer something like that because, and I don't know, I would also think that is this person like sarcastic? Is something wrong in my sweater, or is it what's the problem? But yeah, it might make you a little bit uncomfortable if someone starts complimenting your shirt, for example, some random person.
But so you go through your day, let's say, okay, you live in Finland, and where do you live in Finland, by the way?
In the central part of Finland. So basically, I live in the middle of nowhere. I have a field and a little bit of forest and a lake in my backyard. So I don't see my neighbor so often. If I do, I don't do small talk with him. Probably.
So even your neighbors, you don't exchange any pleasantries with each other.
No, well, I have a good relationship with my neighbors. We have drink a couple of beers, so we have we have broke the ice, and we get along very fine. No problem in that. They're not
I'm
so
just
random persons anymore.
it's interesting too because there's kind of like the stereotype that Finnish people they actually like the distance. Like what you just described to me is like a Finnish wet dream, like living as far away as humanly possible from another person.
Yes.
And I always wonder how much of that is stereotype and how much is that in reality because if you bring another culture to Finland, a lot of times they'll miss the interactions. So for you personally, do you miss the interactions or are you just like leave me the hell alone? I'm okay where I am.
Yes. Leave me alone. I know what I'm doing. Like Kimi Räikkönen once said, this famous Formula One driver. I'll have the same mentality. I like to be around people if I know them. Like, if I know these persons so good that I feel like I would be alone. I mean, I have the same feeling that I would be alone, so I don't have to, act anything or think what I'm saying. I like to be with those kind of people. So my circle is very small, but large crowds and that kind of stuff. That there's a reason why I don't live in Helsinki, the Finland's capital, for example. I get anxious there, and it's just like there's too much people and too much noise and everything. So, but I wouldn't say that every Finn is like that. Of course, we have different kind of personalities. Some likes the nature, some likes the silence, and someone likes to be in the populated areas. So there's a lot of difference. Also, in Finnish culture, there's a lot of difference. Are you living in southern Finland, or in western, or eastern, or northern, or central Finland? Central Finland is like a mix of everything. But yeah, personally, I like the silence. I like the distance to other people and that kind of stuff.
And what is the difference between the north and the south and the east and the west?
Well, the northern, the Lapland people, they are like the most extreme Finns there are. I mean, they live in those freaking minus 40 Celsius degrees conditions, in really harsh conditions. I've heard that, and what I've understood, these guys, they like to talk much, but they also drink a lot, so there might be a correlation. And the western part of Finland, that's like the most civilized part of Finland. I know it's because there's so much Swedish people living in there. Finland has a little history with Sweden, and we still carry a part of Sweden with us. So that's like the most civilized part, if I would say. And also the civilized part is the southern part of Finland because the capital of Finland is there. So there's some differences. The eastern part, I've also lived in the eastern part, and these guys are very sullen, and they won't talk to you until you really know them. But when you know these guys, they talk to you about everything. And it amazed me when I moved from central Finland to eastern Finland. I lived there around 3 to 4 years. That how fast those people start telling you their life story, and they open up like truly. I was like, hey, I don't need to know about your diseases or stuff. I just said hi to you, and there was a lot of difference in there. But yeah, regional differences.
Yeah, you had mentioned something that is quite important, I think, and that is having people around you where you feel like you can be quiet and not
Yeah.
have to fill up the space with needless chatter just to entertain someone, right? It's that like comfort level where you can just sit with someone in silence. And I feel like Finland is probably even more so when it comes to people, like people need to talk for a reason. Do you think that's true that there's like more of an
Yeah.
efficient style of communication?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, when you know a person so well, you don't have to talk about unnecessary stuff. That's like the main goal. and people talk for a reason. For example, if I'm with strangers, I might find myself talking like nonstop. And my wife also sometimes she says to me that, "Why you talk so much when we're with the strangers? I'm feeling uncomfortable. I need to fill that empty space. So we don't just stare at each other in awkward silence, but." When you're with a person, like a close person, that there's no awkward silence. It's a more like telepathic communication silence or something like that, and that's beautiful. I can be with my best friends, like we can sit like 4 to 5 hours and we can drink a couple of beers and we don't say a freaking word in that time, and we all feel comfortable. It's fine. It's normal and it's good. We listen good music. We don't need to talk. We just drink, and if we need to talk, we probably have some therapy session there. But yeah, so no unnecessary talking, please.
Yeah, there's some studies that show that men, typically like all men from any country, they cannot do face-to-face interactions. Like they need to be doing something in order to have that conversation or to have any kind of contact. Women are, even when it comes to Finnish women, I feel like Finnish women, they're way more of a conversationalist typically than men. So Finnish women have complained a lot to me saying that Finnish men that don't know how to have a conversation with us on the first date, they will just sit there and they will expect us to carry the conversation. How true is this for you? I mean, when you started dating your now wife, was this true in your situation?
Well, my wife is from the countryside, and she's a more silent person than I am, probably. No, no, she's social also with around her friends and stuff, but we didn't have that problem. I found out that since when I feel comfortable with person, I can talk with this person, and there's no any that kind of awkward silence. And usually when chemistries are meeting, there's usually there you don't have to think that where should we talk? The talking just comes automatically. So I haven't got. Personally, I haven't got that problem, but I do understand why some Finnish women are complain about that, because the stereotypical Finn is quite quiet, and they don't basically they don't know how to carry the conversation, and it might be a little bit awkward because of that. But I have a lot of friends who are very silent, and they all have wives, so they have pulled that through. But I think it might have been a little bit in the first date. There might have been a little bit awkward silence in those kind of people. But yeah, it might be a little bit uncomfortable for some women if they need to carry the conversation all along. But yeah, that's true.
Hey everyone, just a quick note to say that while I love putting these podcasts together each week, they do take a ton of time and effort. So if you're enjoying the show, please make sure to follow on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're tuning in, and give this podcast a 5-star rating to help it grow. This support really helps me keep improving the show's quality. Thank you, and back to the episode. I mean, when it comes to why historically that is it, do you think it's the whole silence thing? Is it because there's like a practical approach to life that people kind of had to, the terrible weather, basically people like lived pretty separately. Do you think that has part of the reason why it's like this?
Yeah, I think it has some effects to that, and also it's part of the. Well, I don't know why we Finns act like why we act nowadays, but too much talking. It's like we don't look at like in a good way, and it's like all the if you're flexing with your money or something like that, it's like it's not part of our culture, and it feels wrong. But I think it's probably one reason is that we live in harsh conditions, and you don't have time to talk about freaking weather when you know that the weather sucks and you have to survive the next day. I mean, if you look from the 100 years back, how the life has been in Finland. I mean, it was after the Second World War in 40s and the 50s when Finland's economy started rising, and before that we have been like very poor country, and the survival rate hasn't been so good, and yeah, we live in these freaking -40, -50 conditions in here. So I think those people might have been quite pissed off all the time, so they didn't want to talk about stuff, and instead of that, they wanted to drink to so they could forget that harsh reality where they are living. So
Yeah.
meanwhile the Central Europe and the American every more sophisticated countries, they have developed, and there has been they have had medicine and all the future in there. We have lived here in some wood shacks in middle of northern harsh conditions, so that might affect a little bit what we are today.
Yeah, the one place I was told that Finns actually open up is the sauna. How true
Yeah,
is this?
that is very true, and that's why I also, well, I don't own three saunas because two of them are our family's saunas in our family ranch where I live nearby. But basically, I have three saunas, and there's a reason why I have them. One is in my own house here. One is in our lakeside in our family ranch, and the third one is a freaking barrel sauna, which is basically was a humoristic thing to build, and it was fun. But yes, Finnish people talk in sauna, and it's because we don't use clothes in sauna. That's like rule number one when you go to sauna in Finland. You don't use towel, you don't use any freaking swimsuit or anything like that, unless it's a unisex sauna. But when we are, in our birth suite in sauna, we don't have to act anything. And basically, it doesn't matter if you're a CEO or a janitor, or it doesn't matter in that beautiful place called sauna. And that's why Finnish people usually might start open up there, because we don't have to act anything. We are truly ourselves in that situation. And well, think about it. If you would be in the same room with one person and you are both you are both naked and not attracted to yourselves in any kind of way, you probably don't have the need to act or have any kind of shield in front of you. And since you don't have any clothes or anything which would be like some kind of a shield we are wearing, we are truly ourselves in that situation. And I find myself that I found out that saunas are like very cheap therapy session, and that's why I like to be there. And yeah, that's very true that Finnish persons. I don't know how women act in sauna. I haven't, been in those unisex saunas, but of course I've been in sauna with my wife. But with male friends, especially, it's a very therapeutic session, and we talk a lot about life, our relationships, any struggle we have going on, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's true. Finnish men open up in sauna.
There are interesting statistics that I found about sauna, and I'm sure you know this already, but apparently Finland is estimated to have over 3 million saunas,
Yes.
basically nearly every household. And apparently there's more saunas than cars in Finland.
Yes. Well, we have 5.5 million people in sauna in Finland, not in sauna. Well, I probably think many of them have been in sauna also. But yeah, 5.5 million people in Finland and 3 million saunas. So you can do the math. That's why
Yeah.
I also have three saunas.
So you probably make up the large percent of the population that is
Yes. I must.
you're making those
I must.
statistics.
Yes, I must be a good example of how to be a proper Finn.
Exactly. Living in the countryside, having 3 saunas, you're the epitome of the Finn. So
Yes.
maybe those reels are not exactly the stereotype, you know?
No, or maybe I have started acting so well, this Finnish content creator a lot, that I've built this life around me. But to be honest, it has been there already before I've started any kind of content creation stuff.
But you know what's interesting too for me is that one thing that I found really surprising is how much Finns love karaoke. There was even a documentary that I saw a couple of years back on Finnish karaoke and how people use it basically to deal with all sorts of issues. So why is karaoke such a big thing in this Finnish culture? I mean, do you personally do karaoke?
Yeah, sometimes, but why it's so popular? Well, karaoke's are held in bars, and bar offers drinks, and people get drunk, and they feel like a rock star. Now it's my time to shine, and they take that stage and do some horrible cover of some popular song. And I'm talking about myself here, and also all the other things. But yeah, that's why it's so popular. I think it's like you don't have to feel ashamed about yourself when we are all drunk in a bar and yeah, let's go sing karaoke. It's fun, and you can have the attention to yourself for a while. It might feel fun, and I found out that Finnish people, even how sullen and how they like to be, like how introvert they are, but when they start drinking, they become so. I mean, it's just they have some kind of need to gain all the attention to myself, and they're just two different persons. The sober Finn and the drunk Finn, they are definitely two different persons in my opinion. Some persons might not have so much difference, but I know some Finns who are very introverts, but when they start drinking, they go all out. Let's go singing karaoke. Hey, I'm here. Look at me. And it's like, wow, you are like that when you're drunk. But yeah, that's why probably we like to do the karaoke.
I wonder too, though, if there is like a part of them that had already wanted that, but they feel kind of uncomfortable with wanting
Yeah,
this, you
yeah,
know?
definitely. I think that's like in most scenarios that might be that, because they might they might want to do something in their life. For example, I want to be a singer, or I would like to, be a little bit more out there. But I'm a Finn, and I shouldn't do that, And I'm ashamed and everything, everything. So when they start drinking, they just they they forget that and start living instead. So that might be also the reason why we Finns drink so much alcohol. And I don't want this whole podcast to be like me talking about how alcoholic we are, but it's not like, I can't lie. It's part of our culture. It's always been, and I think it always will be in some ways.
Yeah, I find it interesting why people drink around the world. And obviously, it's changing a lot now. Obviously, there are a lot of like dry parties in Finland that are
Yeah,
more popular nowadays because there was such a problem with drinking. But it's funny because when you look at Nordic countries, especially when it comes to Finland, right? But even like Norway, what was interesting that was Norwegians told me that sometimes you don't even have a drink in your hand, but you're pretending that it's a drink because it kind of gives you permission to be
yeah,
crazy, to go all out, you know? So as long as you have something that looks like a drink in your hand, people feel
yeah,
more at liberty to share their whole life story with you, you know?
yeah,
It's less uncomfortable. So it's a little bit kind of like liquid permission to be whatever you want to be in that moment. But it is interesting because as you said, like Finns, I guess the reason that you drink is to get drunk. It's not to enjoy your little sip of wine with the food, you
yeah,
know, the typical
yeah,
stereotypical Southern European reason for drinking is enjoyment. But in Finland, like it's more just to I need to get plastered so I can, so I can have that permission to be that person.
yeah. I mean, that's how the statistics shows that Finns, they drink to get drunk. And but I must say that personally, I can't say that's 100% true. For example, I like to drink, a couple of beers every now and then, and I don't have the need to, get wasted to handle my problems or anything like that. But I know it's in some parts in Finland, it's sadly like that. And about that, to having a permission to have fun when you have the drink in your hand, and but that's quite true. And it's like, if you go to parties in Finland and you don't drink beer, those other guests in there, they might feel uncomfortable because you are not drunk. And I've heard myself a couple of times when I've been in parties when I was a little bit younger and I was more eager to go to those kind of events. I've heard some people saying that, Miikka, you're not drunk enough. Like, what? Why it is your problem if I ain't drunk enough? I'm drunk the way I want to be. Like, it's quite sad that
Yeah.
people have the need to that every other people around them is drunk as they are. So they can, I don't know why they want that. Is it because they want to share some stories that they want that other people doesn't remember, and that's why every other person also have to be drunk. But it might be hard in Finland to be a absolutist or full sober all the time, because in every event there is alcohol involved.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. I think it does come down to the fact that people feel like they cannot really be fully themselves if someone's watching them and judging them and is
Yeah.
too sober for their liking. So it's easier if everyone's just drunk, let's just go crazy and forget it happened the next day
Yeah.
and pretend that never even happened, right? Um, I wanted to transition into talking about relationships a little bit.
Yeah.
And one of the, so I wanted to tell you a joke that is about Finnish men. So a couple has been married for 20 years, and one day the wife complains to her husband, "You never say you love me." And he says, "How can you say that? I've told you." And she says, "When did that happen?" And he says, "We were at the altar the day we got married. I'll let you know if the situation changes."
Yeah.
So by the way, this is not a Finnish joke. This has been also, I've heard this when it comes to Norwegians, it's like a Nordic joke.
Yeah, but it
But
works well.
it's very similar, I feel like. But what do you think? How much truth in is there in that joke?
There is some truth in it. I mean, we Finns might not be so Finnish men might not be so romantic like we see in Hollywood movies or in some French movie where these men are like giving flowers and saying every 10 seconds that I love you, and it just feels, you know, it's exaggerated, or it feels like it's too much. But how we Finns show love. It's more like from the deeds and from the acts we do. So, and that's also something what my wife expects from me. She doesn't have the need for, for me to saying every day that, oh, I love you so much. She knows that already. We've been together for 9 years now. But I will say that I've personally shown that in different kind of acts. For example, I shovel the snow out of the yard, so out of the front yard, so she can drive away there to her job, or I take care of our house, or our son, or something like that. It's like it's the basic acts in every day what uh, describes the love.
And when you had first started dating, did you do any of those acts such as, flower giving or nice fancy
Uh,
restaurants?
Yeah, well, uh, I won't say that they're so fancy. I must confess that we our first date was in McDonald's, and that's like something I ain't so proud of. And thank God my wife is still with me after that. But but yeah, not so fancy restaurant or flowers or anything, because I don't know, if I would take her to some fancy restaurant and buy everything to her and give tons of flowers, and it might have given a little bit wrong expression for myself, because I don't. I think that's part of some kind of acting also, and I like to be realistic with persons. I don't have the need to act, so that's why I didn't do it. But of course, I have taken her to fine restaurants after that, and it was like more like a test in the beginning that she was no a gold digger or anything like that. I'm not saying that there would be a lot of gold to dig from me, anyways, but it was a some kind of test. I didn't want to, spend too much money on a person I've seen on the first time for the first time. I'm more like you to to get to know her, like her personality and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating when it comes to Nordics, and I've heard this premise told. A lot of other guys have shared this to me from Norway and from Denmark, and now you from Finland. But that's that fact that you don't need to kind of seduce the woman from the first
Yeah,
date, saying "Here's me." I think there's almost like a dislike for theatrics and pulling out the chair and opening the card,
yeah,
or it
yeah.
feels a little bit like theater. It doesn't feel real.
It's not real life. That's not what you're gonna do after 9 years in a relationship. Oh, of course it would be nice, but that's not like real life. That's only acting and theater. And would you like to see a real person or someone who is acting something else? So I think that's why that's also quite beautiful in Nordic cultures. And I don't know if that's same happening in other cultures as well, but I will say that at least in Finland, we like to be ourselves, and that's something we also expect from other persons, that they're showing their true selves instead of some theatric acting or something like that.
Now, let's say, you weren't married and you were going out with a woman and she came to the date and she's dressed up, she's wearing high heels, she's got the makeup and everything. And there's an expectation from her side that you are going to pay for the bill and you're going to do all those things. Would you see this woman again? Or is that completely not your thing?
Probably I would not see that woman again. I would probably pay the bill anyways because that's like gentleman way to do. But if I would see that from that person that she's expecting me to pay, and that would give me an impression that okay, you're probably looking something else than a real Miikka. You're probably looking a Miikka's wallet, for example, and that's mine at the moment. So we would not probably see again. And yeah, of course, I've done some dating before I got in this long relationship, and I've seen those kind of persons. Tinder was a wild place, and there was you. I might have seen a couple of different persons in 1 week, and I don't want to brag or anything, but yeah, I saw different kind of persons, and you can see in the first date what kind of person that is, and that's why I took my wife to McDonald's.
But with the other women, did you take them to nice, actually like
No,
fancy restaurants, or was it just like a coffee
no,
date?
yeah, more like a coffee date, never a fancy restaurant, because for first I don't want to pay that bill from there in there because I don't know this person. I'm more likely, to go walk in a pier or something like that, or to go to a coffee, or to get to know that person better, instead of having that some kind of awkward lunchtime and paying that bill and never seeing her again. So yeah, I didn't do that.
So I guess for any foreigner women that are looking to date Finnish men, it's like restaurants or any kind of more formal stuff might come later on in the relationship when
Yeah,
someone's already
yeah,
invested in you.
yeah, and it's not like this person, for example, this woman in this scenario shouldn't get mad if that man, just wants to go walk around with her, or let's go driving around or something like that. Uh, I would say that it's also easier for that Finnish man, to open up for you and talk to you if there's not like hundreds of other persons in one restaurant listening to every word you are saying. And for example, when I have went to the restaurants in the early stages of relationship, I found myself thinking that, oh, does these people know that we are on our second date, or are these people looking at us? And it just gives the whole whole situation goes quite uncomfortable very fast. So therefore, I'll encourage that if you start dating a Finnish man, ask him that, hey, let's go have a coffee, or let's go walk around or something like that. Not so formal, traditional. Let's go have a lunch and let's go to movies or something like that. More like enjoy the Finnish nature and talk and walk.
You had mentioned also that there is a discomfort around people kind of knowing that you're together. So does that mean that people don't do public displays of affection in Finland at all?
Uh, well, I wouldn't say that at all. Some people does, but it's not quite common. I mean, uh, for example, we don't walk hand in hand with my wife around in public places. It's I think we have never really done that, or for God's sake, we don't kiss in public places or anything like that. It's like that happens in a bedroom, not in public places.
There's a room for that, people. There's a
Yes,
room.
yes, literally, there's room for that. but But yeah, yeah. I mean, some younger people, some teenage love, they might give some express their feelings more publicly. But we adults, we are more well, we don't do that so much in public.
Now, your wife is Finnish, or your partner. She's your partner, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So basically almost the same equivalent in Finland. I think it's quite similar in terms of like the rights and everything that you have as a common law versus wife. But
yeah. We are engaged, but yeah,
oh,
not married yet. But I found out that in some cultures they don't understand that's the face. So basically, they talk. They it's my wife. Well, like in paper she's not. We're engaged and she's my fiance. But yeah, basically
Mhm.
the same thing. We live in the same apartment. We have the same rights and the same
Yeah.
stuff.
It's
Only
just more
problem.
the formality, more like a piece of paper where you
Mm,
actually get married, or
yeah,
like a celebration, they say, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
so but for her, okay, so she's Finnish, right? So obviously you don't have any cultural differences.
yeah. No,
But has she ever been like, "Oh, I just wish, you gave me more flowers or you were more complimentary?" Or Finnish women typically do you feel like this works, like it works?
yeah. I mean, I think that we have found a uh some kind of common understanding in that, and I can't remember she you know uh complain about something like I wouldn't bring her flowers or anything. She doesn't expect me to do that, but of course I do that sometimes. For example, in Valentine's Day, I feel it's quite nice to bring flowers every now and then, but it would be strange if she started asking me to do that. Then it would not feel like natural, and it would be like part of the acting game again. I'm doing stuff I wouldn't probably do. So it's like that theater again, which will be quite strange after 9 years in relationship to have the need to start doing some kind of acting in that. But yeah, we haven't got that kind of personally in our relationship. But of course, there might be different kind of relationships, and some women might, expect that from their man to bring their flowers, bring her flowers every now and then, or go to fancy restaurants and that kind of stuff. Of course,
Yeah.
we do that also, but it's not like we're not expecting that. It's not like I don't have like, okay, today is the end of the month. I need to take her to fancy restaurant. I don't have that kind of stuff.
There's less expectations, I think, in general, and I feel like, I mean, in that sense, because like Finnish women, from what I've gathered, and what Finns have told me is that they're pretty self sufficient and they're pretty independent,
Yeah,
and there's like they're
definitely.
they're not princesses. That there's very little maintenance in terms of like, oh, I mean, there's definitely Finnish women like that I've met that have also been like, oh, I want the men to pay for me a lot,
Yeah,
but on the whole, like there's more of a self-sufficiency kind of thing. So I can imagine as a Finnish man, let's say if you were dating someone from another culture, like if she was like an Eastern European woman or a
yeah,
Latina, um, and even when it comes to not just presence or gender roles, but even when it comes to communication, just how much you need to constantly be bringing that kind of eh, passion, and you need to be a little bit jealous, and you need to be a little bit this. So jealousy. Let's talk really quickly about jealousy and arguments and things like that. My stereotype of Finnish men, and I would absolutely love to hear what you think about this, is that jealousy is seen as a negative thing. In a relationship, you should trust each other and you shouldn't be like, oh, but she wants me to be jealous. So I'll act a little bit jealous, as it might be in, let's say, like a Latin American country. What do you think about this? Are you a jealous person?
no, I'm not, and we don't do that in Finland. I don't have the need to be jealous, and I would find that quite strange if my wife would have some kind of need to make me jealous. I think I've never been in that kind of relationship, I'm astonished that that's some kind of thing in Latin America that women wants to make men jealous. Why would they do that? I mean, why? What's the benefit from that? Why?
So the benefit is that a lot of them grew up with telenovelas. So if we're talking about Turkey, but Turkish soap operas. And I think the way love and relationships are seen is a lot of highs. It's very much, when it comes to, let's say, even getting flowers or getting presents, but also really high feelings. Because, when there's passion, that means it's a really good thing. And so a lot of men have told me that my girlfriend actually expects me to be jealous. So I'm not a really jealous person, but I will play the jealousy card because it makes her feel wanted and needed. And so that's
Yeah.
really interesting, right? Because for Finn, that's kind of nonsense. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me at all. Why would I? I mean, I wouldn't like to be jealous. That's not like positive feeling in my opinion. Or why would I want to, as a woman, for example, in this scenario, why would I want that my men would, act or be something which is not like positive feeling? That's strange. This is something like you want to do something on your ego with that, or what is the reason? But yeah, I definitely wouldn't feel comfortable in that kind of relationship, and I would probably be a miles away from that.
There's also, I mean, if you've talked a lot about independence. But then when you live together with a partner, do you still need to keep that sense of independence with each other? Because in certain cultures, when you're invited to a party, you always go together. In Brazil, for example, you would always bring your partner to a party. And when you're at the party, you're probably going to stick together at the party, hugging and kissing and things like that. In
Yeah.
Finland, is there a sense that, like, no, I need to go do things with my friends, you can do things with your friends, let's give each other a healthy distance?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's normal in Finland. You know, we have our own friends, and we spend time with our own friends. For example, my uh, fiance or engaged person or whoever we want to call her, she was 3 weeks in Bali with her East Indonesia or somewhere with her friends, and I was like, okay, you can go. That's fine. I'll just stick around here and handle our house and everything, but not like in a bad way. It was totally fine for me that she left there. So and I'll go out with my friends. Like, well, we don't go like out. We go to our garage and drink a beer there. But my wife is not there with us, and yeah, we have a lot of different kind of events and some kind of parties, which are definitely for my friends, and then she has her own. But yeah, of course, there's some parties where we are together. It depends, like what kind of event it is. For example, if it's a wedding, for example, of course we both are there. But
Yeah.
not it's not like that. All we're always together in some parties, and if we go to some parties together, we are definitely not like together there all the time. We hang around with different people, and come with the same taxi and leave with the same taxi, for example.
Yeah, I've seen that when it comes to some of the other countries where, like, you'll come to a party, you don't know who's the couple because they're not
Yeah.
physical with each other. Whereas, like, in maybe Latin America and some countries, like, you have to mark your territory or someone will take your partner. It seems like, whereas it
Uh,
feels like in Finland, people are just like so self-sufficient and so little drama and so much just on trusting each other and just being like, I trust you, we're together. Like, why cause a scene? Why do these things?
yeah, definitely. That's. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of that kind of drama in film. I wouldn't even. It's hard for me to think a scenario where I would be in a party and some person would start, trying someone else's wife or something like that. Well, at least that will end up to a fist fight, but we all try to avoid that. So, and I mean, fist fight with those men, between those men, of course, we all try to avoid that. So that kind of things probably won't happen.
Now, okay, let's talk about some of the Finnish concepts that are most well known. Obviously, you've talked about sisu in your one of your reels. So,
Yeah.
let's talk about sisu first of all. Like, why is it important in Finnish culture?
I think it's like, well, it's the definition of ultimate willpower, and it's something what we need in every day here. I mean, I might exaggerate a little bit. This Finland is not like we're living in some North Pole and we don't have running water in here and electricity and that kind of stuff. But it's part of what we are. And the sisu, I mean, what it means, it's basically when your body and when your mind is too tired to continue, the sisu will carry on. And that's something, for example, I served 2 years in Finnish army, and that was something, it was constantly pushed to our brains there, that when you're tired, or when your body doesn't feel right anymore, your sisu will carry on. And it's also outside of the army. It's something, for example, in relationships. uh, when you have that sisu, I mean, relationships, they are not always dancing on the roses and that kind of stuff. There's ups and downs, but when you have that sisu, and even though how tired you would be, you might find it, that sisu, to carry on. So it's part of what we are. And I think it's because of our history. We have fought against Russians, we have fought against Swedish. So basically, we have been in the middle of two large imperiums, who both of those are trying to get some benefits from us, and we have had to stand our ground from to the east and to the west. So I think that's part of how the sisu has developed, and the whole concept of sisu.
Yeah, I want to ask you about a few other concepts, but before we do that, I actually have a question that I wasn't planning on asking you, but I will ask you.
Yeah.
And that is, there is this, Finland has been called the happiest country in the world for what is it, 6 years in a row now?
I think it's eighth or seventh already.
It's seven. Okay. So now we're in January. Speaking from a
Yeah.
January mindset, how
Yeah.
true is this notion? Is there like a winter Finn, summer Finn difference?
I think I think the studies are more like about some financial happiness and that kind of stuff. We have a good educational system and good healthcare, so that's why we're so happy. I think that's the whole point. But as Finns and as persons who are interested in culture, we might think that that's all bullshit because because would you be like the most happiest country if you're the most stubborn or the silent country also? And also there's this saying that this happiness is related to alcohol consumption in some ways, but yeah, I have filmed a couple of fun videos about that happiest country in the world, and I think we Finns took it somewhat sarcastically. For example, from me, no one has ever asked me about my opinion for that. No one from that happiness institute hasn't called me that, hey Miikka, are you happy? So I would like to know where is their sources? How do they come up to that idea? But yeah, I've heard that it's the real thing from behind that is that it's the happiness related to healthcare and all that kind of stuff. So that's why we are the happiest country in the world. But it doesn't mean that we are the happiest persons in the world. I wouldn't say that's true.
I mean, do you personally feel content, or are you like, I would be happier somewhere in the south of Spain, to be really honest?
I tried that. I was 2 weeks in Spain, and I was looking for my happiness there, and I wasn't more happy in there than in Finland. So I consider myself quite a happy person here in Finland. Of course, this darkness in this winter times, it might get you a little bit depressed. That's why I have these cool LED lights here, for example. They give me a little bit light and hope. But I don't want to look at my window because it's all dark there. But that might get you a little bit depressed. But I don't think the happiness is only because of what kind of weather in your country is, and that might be the reason why people are laughing at that that Finland is the happiest country, because there's also always so shit weather and bad weather and that kind of stuff. But I think you will find happiness in different kind of in different places than from the weather.
Yeah.
So yeah, I consider myself happy.
You consider yourself happy. Now,
Yes.
I think maybe part of it comes down to expectation, whereas like a lot of Americans, they just have really high expectation in terms of how much
Yeah.
money they should be making and the career
Yeah.
ladder and everything. Whereas like Finns, I think for the most part are able to check out of work and go and just enjoy the
Yeah.
cottage, and like they're
Yeah.
happier with less in a way. And I think that's where maybe the contentment is. Obviously, it's not happy as in Brazil kind of happy, like people dancing around carnival,
Yeah, no. They're like happy with themselves and inside their own head. They're happy. They don't have to express that happiness with large emotions and that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's true about the Finnish working culture. That many people, they just go to work, they do their job as best they can, and after 8 hours they come home and they forget what they have done the whole day. But I've heard that Finnish working culture is quite it's quite, I mean, it's quite good, and people in other countries, they also look at as a Finnish working person is a hardworking person, and that's what they are. We are hard workers, but we don't have to the need to bring those works to our home. I work 100% from home, and I work in Central European companies, so I have seen some different kind of working cultures, and I definitely find I definitely see the difference between Finnish companies and between, for example, Central European companies.
What is that difference? Is it that like you're encouraged to stay to work overtime
Yeah,
in many
yeah,
companies?
yeah. That's like one of the parts, and also uh, I feel like in Finnish companies, you might get more done in 6 hours, what in some other companies they do in 10 hours. So that's like part of the Finnish efficiency. We do a lot of I mean, we are not lazy workers, and I'm not saying that other cultures has lazy workers or anything like that, but the culture is a little bit different. It's fine, to have a 30 minutes coffee break in some other countries, but in Finland, no, we have a 15-minute coffee breaks, and then you go back to the work and do your work. Don't talk, just do. I mean, that's how we that's how we operate.
Yeah, I love that. What about any other kind of Finnish concepts that people should know? There's one with drinking beer in your underwear. What is that all about?
Kalasari candid, yeah, the underwear drunkenness, or how would you pronounce that? You get drunk with your underwear. Uh yeah, it's more like it's not a it's not a saying or anything. It's more like a concept of doing stuff, and it's like uh well, you are yourself when you are in your home. You're sitting in your sofa in your underwear, and you are drinking beer. There's nothing fancy in that. But and I have but that's not the act you do with your friends. You're all alone when you do that. I mean, I have seen some of my friends when they're drunk and they come open the door in their underwear that, hey, Miikka, welcome. I have a beer in my fridge. Come here. But usually people wear clothes when they do drinking with their buddies. So kalsari kannit, the underwear drinking, it's something what you do on yourself. So
Interesting. Interesting.
yeah,
Are there any others? There's a couple more that I found, but let's see if you come up with any, and if not, I'll
yeah,
feed them to you.
I can say one. I will say it first in Finnish. Kel onni on, se onnen kätkeköön. Whom has the luck shall hide the luck. And this is something which describes the Finnish mentality quite well. You know, even you would win in the lottery, you don't go brag around with your money and look down to other people. And that's something also about the mentality that we treat the people the same, no matter their social status. I don't care if someone is a CEO or someone is a janitor or someone is unemployed. I don't have the need to go bragging how good I'm doing if someone is unemployed. So that's and that's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful culture in my opinion, because uh, I found out in some different cultures, they always talk about how good they're doing in work. For example, I must say that what I have heard about culture in United States, it's very much how your career is going and that kind of stuff. People talks about their career very openly. But what about if you go talking to about your career and your race or something like that to a person who is unemployed? That unemployed person might feel quite uncomfortable in the situation. So we Finns, we don't do that. We don't talk about our salaries. We don't talk about our. Well, we can say that what we do in our. Day, what is our job, but we don't go specific in that, or for God's sake we don't start bragging that, hey, by the way, I just got a raise or something like that. So yeah, that's a beautiful proverb. Whom has the luck shall hide the luck.
Yeah, so basically in the US, for example, there's really it's a common thing to ask someone what do you do right away after meeting them, right? So it's kind of that one question where people are always talking about, who they are, not maybe not necessarily bragging, but like subtle bragging at least. In Finland, it's a no-go.
Yeah, why people ask that? Is it because you want to mm, you know I mean, you want to draw some kind of map from that person, like what kind of person that is. I mean, you want to know his or her social status, or why people has the need or the urge to ask that. I mean, in Finland, of course, you in some point, if you're in some, I don't know, in a family meeting or something like that, you ask that, hey, are you studying or are you working or something like that? But no one expects that you start, talking openly how your career is going or what you do. You might say in few words what you do, but that's all. So I've thought about that question and why people have the urge to ask that, and that might be for on deeper level that might be a good fit for some other podcast episode. But yeah,
Yeah, I always wonder as well, and I think maybe it's people don't know what else to ask because I don't think
yeah,
it's whoever cares about what you do for work unless I
yeah,
suppose when you're on a date and women are trying to see how financially
yeah,
stable a man is.
or, yeah,
That's a big
yeah,
one, right? But I think in general, unless your work really like you love what like if you're let's say I don't know, myself personally, like I love what I do. And if someone asks me, then I
Mhm.
say, okay. I mean, I hate the question because then I have to really explain what I do. And then it's too long. And then people have a million questions to ask. But in
Yeah,
general,
yeah,
if I was working in like some financial sector somewhere and I hated my job, I don't want to talk about what I do. It's just so
yeah,
boring. So yeah, I don't get that question either. And I really like this about Finnish culture. It's this like lack of pretentiousness
yeah,
and lack of masks. People just are themselves. They don't have the energy to be like showing off to each other, and it's just like
yeah,
very equal in general, which
yeah,
I really really love. I think it's those countries that really have the gaps in salaries that really make it a big thing about how
yeah.
much money they earn. Again, if you go to like the Middle East or Latin America, you'll see the guy with his like driving the car with his exhaust, with his like really loud noises. Like, okay, we get it, Joe. You have a nice car,
Yeah,
right? But it's
yeah,
like it's such a cringe. Like who that doesn't make
yeah.
anyone else look more attractive.
Yeah, and in Finland there's not so much salary gap here since we have very hard progressive taxation. So basically, I found myself that it doesn't matter what you earn here monthly. The government will only benefit from that, and you get the same freaking salary anyways. So basically, of course, there's a little bit more benefits if you earn a bit more. But yeah, that's why I think we're all in the same line in some level here in Finland, which is also a beautiful thing.
Have we missed any concepts? Was there anything else? There's one that I found, which is
Yeah,
Ru. I probably am not going to be able to say it. Reilus. I cannot say this.
reiluus,
I did.
fairness.
Okay, I did say that. Okay, very good.
Fairness, yeah, yeah. So uh, that's not so common concept in my opinion. I mean, it's like a built-in feature, more likely, and fairness. We are fair to each other, and it's basically the whole Finnish mentality. We are quite good, trusted persons. We don't lie. If you buy a car from Finnish person, you might get screwed up in there, but probably not, because we're fair guys, and we have a straight how do you say it in English when you have like straight spinal? I mean, you don't you're not a some kind of worm or that in a metaphoric way. But yeah, that's part of the fairness. But it's not so common, like sisu. I mean, so commonly known. Of course, it's part of who we are, but it's not like I would say that it's not like number one stamp in everything. Of course, we are fair persons, but sisu, for example, is the more known
Mm.
concept.
Okay, I'll give you one last one, and that is I probably cannot say this, but it's like every man's right to roam through nature. So it's
Yeah,
jokamie.
joka on oikeus.
Perfect.
Yeah, I can talk Finnish. Oh my god.
You're good at it. Okay, tell me, what
Yeah.
is this?
Uh, common. What is the English version again? Common rights. What was
Like
it
a
again? Uh,
common right
yeah,
to, yeah.
every man's right is
Mm.
basically the harsh translation. So basically, and actually, it's not just a saying or proverb; it's a law. You have a common right, for example, to build a fire in the forest. If you have to. If the forest owner hasn't, declined that or anything like that. You have a common right to go swimming, for example, and that kind of stuff. It's like it's not just saying; it's also a part of laws that nobody can deny your swimming in a public lake, for example. Or one fun common right is that, for example, you can walk in a field if so, even though somebody's own that, if even though someone owns that field, but if that someone isn't growing there or anything, you can walk in there, and you can also camp in there if you want. So these kind of stuff. But I hope I don't get much of these wrong here, because that's something what might get mixed up in some points. Some people might think that common right is to uh, be a loud neighbor who pumps music till midnight. It's not common, right? It's just assholeness if you do that. But yeah, that's jokamiehen oikeus.
Yeah, definitely not the last one. Yeah. No, it's true though, because I just remember coming to Finland and even coming to Helsinki, and just the first thing you realize when you get to Helsinki, even when you're at the airport, is how quiet it is. It is
Yeah,
just
that's
so
something. That's
quiet, you know?
Yeah, I was 2 weeks in Spain with my child and with my wife. We came back to Helsinki airport, and first thing what I said to my wife is that Jesus, there is so silent in here. I just wanted to stand there for a while and embrace that silence because damn, those Spanish people, they talk loud and much. So it was the first impression. I mean, it took me 2 weeks in Spain to realize how silent country Finland is, and Helsinki is the loud place. So that Helsinki airport is a loud place, and it felt silent to me after that Spain. So yeah, after I came back to this Finnish countryside, which is quite more silent place than Helsinki, then I realized that yeah, it's silent in here. You can't hear a freaking thing. It's a fun thing that it's one thing actually what me and one of my friends like to joke about, or I don't know, it's more like a statement. Every time we go to sauna, we usually go like once or twice in a month together. We have a little sauna night. We drink a couple of beers, and then we go sit in the snow. And we always say the same thing: that damn, it's silent in here. I mean, if you cough, the whole forest will echo if you cough. So it's crazy how silent it is.
I guess, like, if someone has never left Finland, they will say, "Oh, Helsinki is so crazy," you know? Then you go to
Yeah,
Spain and you realize just how
yeah,
loud people are,
yeah,
and as much as I kind of like a little bit of craziness, but I feel like, I also live in Canada, and I'm used to at least some semblance of quiet, and in Spain, there's a little bit, like, a bit of a lack of respect for people.
yeah,
Maybe you're going to sleep and someone's yelling outside your window well into the morning, and it's just something that I personally cannot deal with either, and I found Finland was the extreme opposite of Spain. So I think that example is really relevant.
yeah.
Now, last question that I have for
Mm.
you is, if someone's coming to Finland and they want to, connect with Finns, date Finns, whatever, whatever. We've discussed a lot of it already, but is there anything else that you would suggest to a foreigner coming to Finland? Maybe something not to do when trying to connect with a Finn?
Don't be like uh too open in the beginning, like and also don't do this. Don't do that. Uh, Annoying small talk too much, and no
Big arm
uh
movements.
yeah, big arm movements and big emotions, that kind of stuff, because I personally would be like, what is your problem? Are you mentally stable or something? I mean, it would be quite strange. But I don't want to tell people what they should do and that kind of stuff, because if someone is coming to Finland from another culture, another kind of stuff, I mean, be you, and don't, because if you start to be like Finn, you are acting, and that's not like, if some Finnish person, some Finnish man, for example, is one wants to meet, I don't know, a woman from Spain. I don't think that Finnish man is expecting that this Spanish woman is acting like a Finnish person. So I would say that uh, be you, but recognize that Finnish man is acting the way he is acting, but you can just be you. So let's forget that I said that about don't do that, or don't be like it. You can be you, but understand if you have those big emotions and stuff, that Finnish person might feel a bit uncomfortable in that situation. But the most important thing is that just be yourself. So
Yeah.
if you're from different culture, embrace that, and bring that culture with you to Finland, because probably that person who wants to meet you, they want to see the real you and your culture also. I found that we Finns are quite interested about other cultures and other people as well, and it's like it's a richness, so embrace it.
Yeah, that's tough advice to give, as you said. It's like, you don't want to be completely transform yourself into something you're not. At the
Yeah,
same time, you might get some awkward reactions, and you have to realize that people are just not used to that way of behaving.
yeah,
But they
yeah,
might embrace it if they've only seen that, and they're maybe
yeah,
more international, or they gravitate towards something different. So that might
yeah,
actually be really refreshing for them.
yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah,
noticed this in Finland as well, where people kind of light up. They're freaked out, and they light up at the same time when they notice, oh, she's probably American. I'm not, but she's probably American, and this is so different, and I'm freaked out
yeah,
but fascinated. So there's like a mix of emotions there. Um, so you might win, you might lose, but it's just something to be aware of, basically.
yeah, 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 definitely. And I personally, I'm very interested about other cultures, and that's why I work also in international company. And I just freaking love it that we have people from around the world, because I've always been fascinated about other cultures. So I definitely uh, it's a positive thing that people brings their own culture with them. So yeah. But yeah, something which is good to recognize, that you are in a country where, if you come to Finland, you're in a country where people are not used to that kind of stuff, but they don't judge you because of that, or there's a reason why this person is interested in you, anyways.
Yeah, it's just different. That's it. You just have to
Yeah,
realize that you're in a different
yeah,
country, and it works differently, right? But
yeah,
Miikka, thank you so much for taking part of the podcast. It was such a fascinating episode because I've had a Finnish content creator on this, but she was female, so she gave more of a female perspective. I've had a British guy, Very Finnish Problems, Joel from Very Finnish Problems. He was on the podcast talking about the British reaction to the Finnish culture, and his wife is Finnish as well. And now we have
yeah,
a full-on Finnish
yeah, yeah,
guy representing all of Finnish men. I'm just joking, but
yeah, yeah.
and so I think it's going to be really interesting for people to listen to this, to watch this, guys. If you have any questions for Miikka, please drop them below. Also on Spotify or YouTube or wherever you're watching or listening. Miikka, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. It was nice to be here, and yeah, all the best to you, and hopefully we see you again in some form.